Which champions are the most difficult to master in League of Legends? The peak potential of these champs are almost limitless, as you can always be finding ways to improve, which makes them very fulfilling champions and generally a lot more fun to play as well. In today's video, we'll be breaking down the 10 hardest champions to master for Season 13. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Our first selection for the top lane, kickstarting the top 10, is going to be Gangplank. Right off the bat, it's important for us to note that GP is not actually all that difficult to pick up and see success with right away. After all, point and clicking with Q, applying passive damage, and using ultimate can easily make you quite effective. This is referencing GP's skill floor though, and not his skill ceiling. The skill floor of GP isn't anything too crazy, but his skill ceiling most definitely is. To truly master Gangplank, it's going to take you a ton more games than the average champion. Barrel combos and being able to perfect them for all types of situations is what really sets Gangplank players apart. You know a mastered Gangplank player when you see one because they'll land a barrel combo that makes you scratch your head and wonder how it even hit. The build to run for Gangplank is an Essence Reaver Rush into Quick Blade 2nd and Prowler's Claw 3rd. Take First Strike for the Keystone Rune with Free Boots, Futures Market, and Cosmic Insight. Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter are for secondaries. One of the newer champion additions to League of Legends is extremely difficult to master, and that champ is K'Sante. A really good way to help confirm whether a champion has a high skill ceiling or not is by paying attention to their solo queue win rate in relation to how much they get played in the pro scene. Despite K'Sante being a very poor performer in solo queue, hovering around a 46% win rate, his pro play presence has remained extremely high. So although the average solo queue K'Sante player was seeing subpar results, when played to his potential by pro players, K'Sante continued to be a powerful pick if mastered. K'Sante has a very unique kit with his ultimate that reduces his resists and health upon use. Calculating for that loss of durability before you go in is going to take some time to get used to. Being able to knock enemies through terrain with K'Sante R adds another layer of skill expression to the spell. If you can truly master K'Sante, he is extremely worth it though, as you're basically a tank with the dueling capabilities of a bruiser due to his R. Build for K'Sante is an Iceborne Gauntlet Rush into Sunfire Aegis 2nd and Gargoyle Stoneplate 3rd. Grasp is the Keystone Rune with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth. Run Biscuits and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. A jungler has always thrived in high elo but has struggled mightily in the lower ranks is Nidalee. This has always been another great way to help determine if a champion is hard to master. High elo players are almost always going to be more proficient and polished on champions, so when you see a big discrepancy between the performance of a champ in high versus low elo, it's a good indication the champ just has a high skill ceiling. To put this into context, Nidalee currently has a 51% win rate in Masters elo, but in Silver elo it's only 48%. It's not just statistics though that back up Nidalee being a difficult champion to master, as she most definitely passes the eye test. If you can't hit Nidalee Q, you may as well sub yourself out for an extra cannon minion. Landing spears consistently and knowing when to actually throw your Q is something that takes a ton of refining over many games. Using Fog of War pockets optimally and keeping track of the enemy's dodging tendencies are not easy to do. Being a squishy champ who's all damage and no CC, the margin for error you have is so much lower than the average champ. Simply playing Nidalee at an average level is not going to cut it when it comes down to being more impactful than meta junglers, which means it's so vital to master her if you want to see great success. Build for Nidalee is a Night Harvester Rush into Shadowflame 2nd and Zanya's 3rd. Grab Dark Harvest for the Keystone Rune with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Treasure Hunter. Absolute Focus and Water Walking are for secondaries. The second jungler on the list who's extremely hard to master is Lee Sin. Lucky for you guys, we just uploaded our Mastered Minutes Lee Sin course to our website, so if you're thinking of picking Lee up, it's a great resource to help you out. There's a reason no matter how weak Lee is in meta, he always maintains a high play rate for solo queue. The skill expression that goes into playing a good Lee makes him really fun to play and super rewarding to master. Lee is one of those champs who can have a 45% win rate in solo queue, but if you are truly mastered on the pick, you can still make him work. The ceiling for Lee is very high due to all the different ult combos you can pull off based on unique circumstances. The insect kick, the Chinese insect kick, and the drive-by kick are all unique combos that can all be optimal based on the situation. Not only knowing how to perform all these kicks, but knowing when the correct time is to use each one will take a ludicrous amount of games. Build for Lee is a Gore Drinker or Eclipse Rush into Black Cleaver 2nd and Death's Dance or Ma 3rd. Conqueror is the optimal keystone with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Azir is without a doubt one of the most difficult mid laners to truly master, and that's a big reason he's been a nightmare to balance for both solo queue and pro play. Azir can be a 45% win rate solo queue champion, but a pick or ban in pro, which goes to show how difficult he is for the average player to pilot. Azir is a super unique champion because he's this mix of a mage and a marksman. You have strong burst power with your full combo, but consistent DPS power from soldier auto attacks is also quite strong. A mage like Xerath has a very distinct playstyle where he sits back from range and fires away his skill shots. Azir, on the other hand, has more options, as he can also sit back and dish out DPS from range, but has the potential to dive the back line if the situation presents itself. What a lot of average Azir players struggle with is knowing when to dive in for those aggressive plays and when it's best to sit back. A lot of the time, playing a more boring Azir is actually how you're going to get the most out of him. Of course, being able to hit Shurima Shuffle combos is a big part of mastering Azir, but the decision making that goes into playing the champion optimally is also just as important. The build to run for Azir is Liandry's Rush into Nashor's second and Zanya's third. Pick up Conqueror as the keystone with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Mana Flow and Scorch are the best secondaries. Our second mid lane pick is also quite commonly played in the top lane and a very difficult champion to master for both roles, being Irelia. Of course, there's the mechanical side of things that contributes to mastering Irelia, but what really sets Irelia players apart is how they maneuver around in late game teamfights. Part of this is mechanical as well, but being able to spot your openings and executing on Irelia in the later stages of the game is something that really differentiates an average Irelia from a mastered one. You'll know right away if you've got a dud Irelia player on your team, because even after obtaining an early lead, they'll fail to close the game out by inting over shutdowns due to over-aggression. That's definitely what plagues a lot of newer Irelia players, is that they'll overstep too far, not knowing the limits of the champ, and end up throwing games away. So much mobility from Irelia Q can be a double-edged sword, because at times it makes you feel invincible, which can actually be a detriment. The snowball power and ability to take over games is massive though, which makes Irelia so rewarding once mastered. Build to run is a Blade of the Ruined King Rush into Immortal Shield Bow second and Wit's End third. Rune Page consists of Conqueror with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, Grab Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Very much like Azir, Aphelios has always been a champion extremely difficult to balance for solo queue and pro play. Aphelios is currently the lowest win rate ADC in the entire game for solo queue, yet he's still prioritized over the majority of ADCs for pro play. Aphelios may not be as mechanically difficult as some ADCs, but it's the sheer amount of time you have to put in to learn all of his guns which makes him more difficult to master. In a way, it's like you're playing multiple different ADCs at once, as you can completely change the way you posture based on which guns you have active. Learning the limits of every single gun is not something that comes within a couple of games, which makes the skill ceiling of Aphelios much higher than most ADCs. The build to run for Aphelios is Gale Force Rush into Infinity Edge second and Bloodthirster third. With Lethal Tempo nerfed for patch 13.6, Press the Attack is now outperforming, and you should definitely try it with Sorcery for secondaries. There are multiple of reasons as to why Ezreal is one of the hardest ADCs to master. Obviously, he's very skill shot reliant, and we could just use that as the cop-out reason as to why he's on the list, but there's much more to it than that. Mechanically, Ezreal's quite difficult, but it's often not about if you can hit your spells, but when you decide to use them. There's a very fine line with Ezreal when using E, where you want to be jumping in and using it aggressively to get the most out of the champ, but only in the correct spots. When those correct spots arise is something that will take you a very long time to understand, but once you got it down, Ezreal E usage is what really sets apart the average versus mastered Ez players. An average Ezreal will either use their E far too aggressively and end up dying for it, or not E forward at all, missing out on strong trading angles or kill opportunities. Like we said, it's a very fine line that takes a long time to master. Build for Ezreal is an Essence Reaver Rush into Manamune second and Duskblade third. For runes, roll with Press the Attack, Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace. Secondaries are Magical Footwear and Biscuits. Even throughout all the years of many new champion releases, Thresh continues to be one of the most difficult supports to master. Starting with Thresh E, there are so many ways for you to express your skill with the spell. For example, if you time Thresh E correctly, you can knock champions out of their dash animation while they're in midair. This can actually make or break certain situations. For example, reacting to a Lee Sin flying in with his Q on your carry can prevent him from dealing Q2 damage. Mind games with Thresh Q and using it to predict the enemy's flashes or dash is also something that can really take your Thresh to another level. You can also play mind games with Thresh W, throwing it behind you to make it look like your jungler is there, but you're actually just using it to relieve pressure so your ADC can farm more freely under tower. The list goes on and on really, so there are so many ways to express your skill on Thresh, which makes it very hard to actually master him. Build to Run is a Locket or Shurelia's Rush into Zeke's second and Wardstone third. Rune Page consists of Glacial for the Keystone with Hex Flash, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight, followed by Bone Plating and Unflinching for secondaries. And the final champion to round out the top 10 is going to be Bard. Bard Q is such a unique spell with how it interacts with terrain and offers a ton of skill expression as a result. Using Flash to line up Q stuns and being able to calculate the correct angle in which you'll have to throw the spell is not easy to pick up on. Bard W and E are pretty simple to use for the most part, but Bard's ultimate is one of the spells in the game that is pretty much impossible to actually use optimally in all situations. Do you ult the enemy carry? Do you ult the champion diving your back line? Do you ult the enemy tanks so your team can focus the carries? There are just so many things you have to consider when using Bard R, which makes it one of the most skill expressive spells in the game. I'm sure we've all played with that Bard who uses their ultimate to hinder the team more than help. Just simply using Bard R in a way that doesn't hurt your team is often difficult for the average Bard player. Core build to run for Bard is a Locket Rush into Redemption second and Wardstone third. For the Rune Page, grab Guardian with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Zombie Ward and Relentless Hunter are the optimal secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it guys, 10 of the most difficult champions to master for Season 13. Of course, we don't expect everyone to agree with our list, so if yours would look a little bit different, let us know down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, good luck out on the Rift, and we'll catch you in the next one.